Hey baby, so it's 2023 and the one thing that I had planned and like a resolution that I had for 2023 was overcoming resistance. Step number 1 was starting this YouTube channel. Step number 2 is talking about resistance and accepting that there is resistance. And the I believe if you have to solve a problem, right, you need to acknowledge that the problem exists, and that that's the first step to solving a problem, right? Understanding and acknowledging that there is a problem and you will have to solve that. So okay, what is resistance? Resistance is a common psychological phenomena that that can be manifested or is manifested in many different forms, such as, for example, procrastination or avoidance, or the mere opposition to change, tiniest change to the biggest change. But the opposition to change is what we say, a form of resistance. So for example, I have a mat and it's like yellow color and I want to change it into green. I know I want to do that, but something, some factors, some head thingy is making me not do it even though I want to do it, right? So that's resistance. Imagine this: you are this person and there is a invisible wall around you. So what happens is, you are standing between the walls, you can see the end goal, you can see, okay, this is where I want to reach. But the second you start walking, there are some blockage, and because it's invisible currently, you are not able to see कि, अच्छा, this is the end goal, this is where I need to reach, but I don't know why I'm not able to do it. So one, as I said, one thing is you need to acknowledge the resistance. It's not gonna be easy, that's a fact, it's not gonna be easy, but that's the way you can start reaching the goal even faster and in a comfortable way than not knowing what's happening. Even though you are able to see the goal, even when you are able to walk towards it, but there is something that's blocking you. So that's resistance, and this resistance can be triggered by a variety of factors. So for example, it includes fear of failure, being scared of failing, or fear of success. There are so many changes that are brought into your life once you start succeeding and reaching the place you wanted to be, that the change itself triggers some kind of fear in you. So instead of hating the game, you start hating the player. So there is a fear of success that happens. I'm so sorry for that. Then there is self-doubt and insecurities. I really had to fight a lot of self-doubt when I started this YouTube channel, and I realized ki regardless, I worked on it, and I realized ki once this was a trigger of resistance, I started working on that aspect instead of working on all the aspects that are triggering, or that are making me resist the things that I want to do. It was easier for me to reach out and get the right resources, which helped me resist things a little less, and then start this YouTube channel, for example. um, so where does resistance stem from, right? So it can be lack of motivation or lack of clear goals. Again, when I was starting this YouTube channel, I didn't really I mentioned in the first video itself ki I'm gonna let time decide where the YouTube channel goes, because I couldn't sit down and clearly point out these 10 things are what my YouTube channel are gonna be like, because I am this person who would like to do 10 different things, right? So instead of sitting down and fighting with clarifying all the goals that my YouTube channel have, I decided to get over it, jump over that hurdle, wherein I, because there was a lack of clear goals, I was not that brought resistance in my life. So that was how I dealt with it. When people are not clear or on what they want to do or why they want it, they may struggle to take the action. And as I mentioned about myself, because the goals were not clear, I was not able to start it. There was a lot of resistance, but the second I was like, okay, let the time decide, I was able to jump that hurdle and start taking actions, instead of just sitting at my desk and being like, okay, I need to start a channel, but I don't know what to do. I need to do this, but I don't know what to do. So it's okay if you keep the tracks open. It's okay if you don't acknowledge and write everything down till the time you acknowledge the fact that these are the things that are holding me back. These are the things that maybe are making me less motivated to do things. Or for example, a lot of when I was watching a lot of videos on how to start a YouTube channel, right? So one thing was, I guess Ali Abdul said this, keep everything so simple that you just have to sit and record. Which makes you a little motivated, that you don't have to every single time attach 10 different lights and make sure everything is visible, and then the laptop configuration and all that. So to reduce the struggle to take action, you need to understand what's the struggle, what's is, if that's a lack of motivation or lack of clear goals or whatever that may be. You need to understand where it is stemming from. And once, so first is understand the trigger, second would be understanding where the resistance is stemming from. So these are the two hurdles that you jump, and then you come to the next stage, right? So in some cases, resistance may be a result of past experiences or traumatic events that have led to feeling powerless or a sense of mistrust. So for example, the carpet example, right? So if I want to change the carpet from yellow to green, why is the resistance? Maybe the yellow carpet itself has made me feel very nice, or made me given me happy memories, and I have some emotionally emotional linkage to the carpet itself. But the goal, the entire reason why I want to change it to green is because I just want a cleaner carpet, a newer carpet, which is not just basically sawdust right now. I need to understand ki where is where this what's the, what we say, emotional side of the resistance. So first would be triggers, which are literally, okay, this is what triggering me. Maybe fear of failure is triggering me. Then is stemming where the thing is stemming from. So lack of clear goals, that was where it was stemming from. And in the third case, it's the emotional part, do I why am I not able to see this? So for example, I couldn't understand how people perceive me, and when I was starting this YouTube channel, I was what if I come off as very powerless, or I people laugh at me, and then I'm in a situation where I don't have the power, or the fact that I was bullied a lot in my school days, and that trickling everything is basically linked. So you need to understand, this is the end goal. I am maybe 10 steps away from it right now. I am jumping hurdles, and now I have to clearly understand what my emotional baggage is, what my trauma, past experiences or traumatic events that I have been through are. And once you start accepting, okay, this maybe childhood bullying is in some way making me not start a YouTube channel. Why is that happening? Maybe you can sit down, write things down, okay, these were the things that made me feel powerless, and if I start a YouTube channel, if I get in a situation where I feel powerless, how can I not feel powerless? And how can I work those things out? So now if I know ki I have 5 different resources that can help me feel a little more empowered, I got the courage to start the YouTube channel. So one thing about resistance is, resistance can be both internal and external. So internal resistance comes from within the person, the bullying, or fear of failure, fear of success, which comes from within. And whereas external resistance comes from the external factors, such as other people or the environment. So for example, again, the maybe the carpet example, wherein I will have to deal with other people, that can be a factor of resistance, right? Wherein I will have to talk to other people, maybe maybe get it shipped, and then pay the person who is putting the carpet and all that, which is external resistance. And the internal resistance would be my personal feelings attached to the carpet, but I still have to change it and get a new carpet. So one thing is there is this book called The Art of War, no sorry, The War of Art. Yeah, The War of Art. The writer is the book is so beautifully written. He talks about how resistance plays a very important role in our life, and every single person goes through it in some form or the other. And the fact that you need to acknowledge, it's like, it should be highlighted, like, resistance exists, resistance needs to be overcome. And the second you like, overcome resistance, there is this, like, joy, like, not the oh my god I'm so happy, the joy wherein you are like satisfied, which is what we as humans are trying to do, right? Like, there are so many people, like, in my personal life, I have some friends who are like, who can reach the ultimate like, the ultimate position that they want to, but they feel like, they, or even like, including me, we feel so much resistance. And like, a lot of time what happens is we are not able to communicate our resistance, because what are we gonna say, right? Like, I can't do it because I can't, like, I want to but I can't, like, that's literally it, that's what's happening. Like, you want to do a certain thing, you want to start a YouTube channel, you want to, like, go get those wacky ass outfits and all that, but there is some kind of resistance. Even though you want to reach that goal, you are not able to, and that thing, like, is very upsetting. But at the same time, the second you like, accept it, the second you start moving on, jumping through all the hurdles that I mentioned, you realize that you always already have the potential, and you always had the potential. All you need to do is believe in yourself and understand कि अच्छा ये, like, this is what's happening and this is how I overcome. And if I don't overcome, I, like, there is another resistance that's gonna happen after, like, it's like what we say, a linear line wherein there are like pit stops. Once you get from point A to B, there is another resistance that's gonna happen, then you go from B to C, and then another resistance that might pop up. So you need to understand that resistance, it's like very very normal. And, like, there is like no shame accepting that you have some resistance, because as I said, it's a basic psychological phenomena and it happens with almost everyone. So first would be, like, acknowledging the fact that resistance exists, and second is, as I said, like, taking small steps, taking one step at a time, making sure you have a safety net, but at the same time jumping that tiny barrier that you have. Because see, resistance, though it can be external or internal factors, majority of it comes from your perception towards a certain thing. So once you're able to, like, change the way you perceive a certain thing, you're able to jump that hurdle, and, like, you are through. And then the second you look back, you're like, why did I even, like, why was I even scared? So that happens. Then one way to overcome resistance is to identify and challenge the underlying thoughts and beliefs that are, like, causing it. For example, if someone is resisting change because they believe that they will fail, they can challenge that belief by finding evidence on the contrary. Like, for example, starting this YouTube channel, okay, so I know I might fail, but then there are so many evidences that show, okay, like, people who start a YouTube channel, eventually they are able to find their own community, own tribe, and succeed in a way wherein my end goal with this YouTube channel is not to earn money, is not to, like, be super popular, or, like, people knowing me when I walk on the street. It's mostly so that I can share my values, share my ideas, share my thoughts, or, like, even laugh with you to memes. And, like, there are these button episodes that I'm gonna eventually start reacting to and all that. So if I like, if I am able to, like, understand what's making me resist, and the fact that, like, the change, because, like, what we say, I am resisting the change itself, right? So if I understand the change, and the fact that I'll be failing, then I can, like, jump. So, like, as I mentioned in the first few parts, like, trigger, like, the triggers that are there are the things that stem, like, the resistance that stem from different ways. These are the things that, once you're able to overcome, you will be able to, like, fight it back in a very healthy way, wherein, see, the one thing that I would, like, definitely say is, do not try to, like, beat yourself down to, like, overcome resistance. So another way to overcome resistance is to focus on the beliefs of taking actions, and to use positive visualization and positive affirmation to build confidence. So, like, for example, when the, what we say, the thing that's stemming the resistance is lack of confidence, you can understand how to psychologically make sure you are in a better spot, right? For example, positive visualization or positive affirmation, wherein you tell yourself, you don't need someone else to come and tell you ki you're doing good, right? Because till the time you start, like for example, I have this one person, my best friend, and I continuously need positive affirmation from her, and only then I can focus. But the second you take her as a variable out of my life, I go down to being less self-confident, less having a lot of self-doubts. So what you need to do is have yourself as that person or as that point from where you get your positive affirmations or positive visualization, and that will channelize your entire perspective in a way wherein you don't need anyone else to come and tell you ki you are doing good, or you are doing what you're doing is something that we trust in. Because right now you're in a position wherein you are you're already battling yourself with resistance, you're taking small steps, and in this journey it's gonna be a little on your own. So for example, I was facing resistance. I don't know why I'm facing resistance. So even when I would I was in even when I would go to my friend and tell her ki okay babe, I'm facing a lot of I want to start a channel but I have no idea. Either she'll be like, okay, what's the issue, and I'm like, I don't know, I just can't. Or B, it's gonna be like I'm just saying a lot of things, and eventually people will start calling me bluff because I just keep saying things and I'm not able to resolve those things or work on them, because I have A, not understood my barriers, and B, I am not able to trust in me, and I'm expecting someone else to come and trust in show trust in me, show give me positive affirmations. And that's that's pretty okay for you to expect if you are like a 5-year-old child wherein you are just building the understanding towards the world. But once you are old enough, you need to almost all of us, every one of us needs to understand this, that we are our biggest cheerleaders, and in this journey of overcoming resistance, we will have to look after ourselves, tell us some positive affirmation, give us some positive visualization. Mood boards play a very important role in this, wherein because you are continuously able to see your end goal, you're continuously it's mood board is basically a board wherein you paste all the goals that you have for the year, and then you keep looking at it every single time, and these visualization itself push you towards fighting this resistance and overcoming it. So what can help, on the same line, what can help us overcome resistance, right? So first can be support from others, that's important, but as I said, not as important as you showing support to yourself. A coach or a therapist can play a very important role here, wherein there is this constant person or a constant, what we say, energy around you who is pushing you to the right direction. And this can also be helpful in addressing resistance and finding ways to overcome it. So sometimes what happens is I am giving myself positive affirmations, I'm giving myself a lot of positive visualizations and all that, but I need a channelization. I need a place wherein this is where I should move. So a therapist or a coach can help you do that. But there is this saying in my language wherein you can get the horse to the water, a therapist or a coach will help you reach the water, but at the end of the day you are the person who will have to bend down and drink the water, and no one else will be feeding you the water. And even if they put water in your mouth, you are the one who will have to swallow it and do something about it, right? So support from others is one way wherein you can actually use it in a very, what we say, in a way it's like Google Maps, they will show you the right direction, but you will have to walk on those directions. And lastly, it is so important to remember that resistance is a normal and natural part of change. uh, so natural part of change process, and should not be viewed as a sign of weakness or failure. So it's just because you're resisting to do something doesn't mean you're weak, doesn't mean you don't need to take resistance, like the fact that you have resistance in you, as a sign of weakness or self-doubt. So, resistance is like, imagine this is you and this is resistance. It exists around you. You need to acknowledge the fact that it exists, but at the same time, don't tag yourself as, like, a person with a lot of resistance, because again, that's not gonna lead you to anywhere. And once, like, for example, in psychology, there is this thing wherein we don't call people depressed, we call them to have depression. Like, for example, a random person, he has depression and not he's depressed, right? So instead of, like, giving that issue the person itself, like, making that person the issue itself, sorry, you understand that there is this person who is good, who is doing good in his life, who is doing, like, everything that he wants to, and he has the, like, capacity to do everything that he can. And there is resistance that exists. So this person has resistance, and this is not a person with a lot of resistance. So if you acknowledge this as a third party, resistance as a third party, you will be able to, like, what we say, you can fight enemies if you see them, right? So first is, like, understanding and acknowledging that resistance exists. Second would be overcoming resistance by understanding what are the triggers, where the resistance is stemming from, what are the emotional, like, emotional aspects that you need to deal with to overcome resistance. And one by one, the second you start taking steps, eventually you will notice that, like, you have come so far, you have come, like, so far in your journey. You can look back and you will feel empowered. And there is a lot of, like, as I said, it's not gonna be like one time journey ki, like, it's like, it's not a movie, right? Ki you, and, like, you live the movie and then there is a dead end, right? So there might be a, like, a lot of rounds of resistance, or there might be a lot of scenarios in which you have resistance, like, for example, towards your work or towards your study life. So you just need to understand where the resistance is and keep going on the journey, and eventually things just fall in place, things, like, get better. And it's definitely a long journey, but the fact is, you're listening to this video and, or, like, seeing me, and you have taken the first step of understanding ki, okay, there is a resistance. Maybe today you can sit down, understand ki, like, what are the goals and how am I reaching it. Like, if you want to change your job or do better in your career, are you doing the right steps today to reach that goal in, like, in the near future or, like, far future, whatever. You just need to understand that there are these aspects in which I'm resisting. These aspects are there because, and these aspects are, like, the underlying internal resistance ke jo, what we say, variables are. Those are, like, internal and external, and eventually you will just, like, swim through it and the journey becomes easy. So those were my first few thoughts on resistance and what resistance is and where it stems from. I'll definitely be making more videos about resistance and talk a lot more about the war of art in the coming videos, and hope you like it. Please drop a comment telling me how I can do better, and share this with your friends who are facing a lot of resistance, and do not try to share it back with me, because ouch. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.